Okay, this is project number 78. Let me turn this fan off here so you can hear what's going on. Well, due to lots of events this year, late last year, vehicle problems, COVID, weather, house maintenance, rental house maintenance, we just never seemed to get time to get up here and start working on the boat. So because of that, I've basically have missed the cool season, which is the best part of the year to work on this. So I'm rushing like crazy, trying to get all my Frankenstein cuts here sealed up, so if a hurricane or some major storm comes by where I do have to take the tarp down, it will at least be sealed and waterproof. And I'm getting there. Each one of these cuts represents where I pulled the top skin off, top fiberglass skin off, and replaced the core and then resealed it. This one came out pretty good. I still got to feather the edges and put down some fairing and more gel coat. The gel coat you see here was simply to seal in the polyester resin to help it cure. And you can see all the other cuts that I made. And the reason I made so many cuts because I kept tracing the rotted wood. A lot of it was not evident just by pressing on the top. Some of it was. When you press on the top and it's spongy, well, that tells you right away that the wood is rotten underneath, the core is rotten. And I would concentrate on that first, and then I would find areas where I had to keep going. And this hatch initially was flush to the deck. So I did not like that idea. I think it allowed water to form around the edge, and anyway, it just seemed like to me that the hatch should be raised up. So this is my rough design. I've got it sealed in, and basically I just used 2x4s and some plywood. Of course, after a whole season of sitting out here, the 2x4 has sweated out any resin, so I'm able to coat it now. So I've got the hatch. I've got to replace the plastic window part, I guess you'd say. The rest of it, the metal portion and the trim, is still intact. So I plan on reusing it. So once again though, I just want to seal up all my cuts. Where you can see here, these are sealed. I just initially covered the cut itself over with a strip of fiberglass. And I've got to fill in some low areas with fiberglass. Got one here and got one on the other side. And once I get basically it formed in the correct manner, then I'm going to lay one entire layer of, I'm thinking 1708, but I don't know, that might be too heavy. It might be too obvious on the edges. So I'll probably just go with CSM again. Anyway, whatever it will be one layer over everything to give it one more final seal. And then I plan on coating that with gel coat, and either texture the gel coat or with a textured roller, or add sand for non-skid. Either way, they look pretty nifty. I like the sand idea because that takes probably about at least 2 coats, maybe 3 coats of gel coat, and that would even further help seal. So we'll see how it all goes. First step is get this sealed up and ready in case I do have to take the tarp down for weather. And what we have here, as I was grinding all the edges in preparation and putting down some more fiberglass layers, I discovered some more rotten wood, and luckily it was confined to this one area, so I did a hit on it real quick. And on my Mast Mount, this edge here was just a little bit lower, so I can't put it on there right now, but it was rocking back and forth, and I needed to be as straight and flush as possible. So I threw another little small piece of fiberglass on there just to build it up a little bit. And here, might be hard to see, I got some wet stuff here. This used to be a solar powered vent, and it was leaking at the wood, or the core surrounding it was completely rotten. So this is one example where I cut it out and replaced the core and fiberglassed back in, put new gel coat on top. I mean, you see a lot of imperfections, of course, but like I said, everything's going to be ground down and another coat's got to go on. One more layer of top layer of fiberglass, and then on top of that, the entire deck will be getting gel coat, either with a roller textured roller, or with sand. I'm not sure which way we're going to go. And will I get it done this year? Probably not. If I had nothing else to do except work on this, I think in 10 days I could probably make real good headway, assuming I could take the tarp down, the tarp frame, and I had no rain for 10 days and it wasn't 90 degrees outside. I could probably make some headway. So we're getting there. It's just pretty much at the moment just getting to it as I can. And more on this later. Alright, back at the Watkins 27 sailboat. I just finished up filling in all the cuts that I had made previously to replace the core. Of course, I'd replaced the core, and I had reused the I don't know, the skin, I guess you'd say, the top fiberglass, mainly just for filler and convenience and budget. So at the moment though, what I've done is just filled in and covered with fiberglass all the cuts that I had made. Again, because if weather comes along, I might need to take the tarp covering off, and I wanted to make sure that this was weatherproof. Of course, this is nowhere near being complete. Everything has to be sanded down heavily so I can see all the ridges, all the dips, and then fill in accordingly with more fiberglass till I get to a point where I can fill it in with fairing, and then gel coat again on top of that. So it's still a ways to go, but at least I know now that even if it does storm heavily like a hurricane, I don't need to worry about any more water intrusion underneath this. I still have one other area that I know about near the bow. It's pretty soft. I'm gonna have to cut into that and replace more wood up there. And the list goes on and on. I'm gonna have to pull this hatch out and clean it up, probably reseal it, and most likely put in some type of fiberglass filler. I have a feeling that there's still some rotten wood, although I'm not even sure this is cord. It might just be pure resin, I don't know. Top deck, of course, was definitely cord, and it was cord with plywood, and this entire boat was originally laid up with polyester resin. They did not use regular resin, so I figured it was made in '84 and it's lasted this long, so if I use polyester resin, it'd probably last basically to the point that I'm no longer here. But I still have to pull all the deck fittings out and probably fill them in with resin, re-drill, and re-bed everything. But at the moment, I'm just getting the worst areas that I was aware of when I bought it. Simply by walking the deck, you could feel the sponginess of the rotten areas. and the mast step was one. I've completely rebuilt that, and this back hatch. So basically everything that had an opening through the cabin roof, I guess you'd say, allowed water to seep in. It was not sealed, and previous owners throughout time drilled in certain areas, and they did not bed it down properly. They didn't fill it in with resin and re-drill. It was just a mess. So still got a long way to go, but I know that this top portion now is waterproof, and that's what I wanted. Here's a lineup of all my debris from the day. I'm just waiting for it all to dry out, and then I'll peel back the resin off the containers so I can reuse them. And that's where we are today. Like I said, the list goes on. Everything on this boat has to be touched. But I'm starting with the exterior first. Once I get that bow taken care of, then I'm going to replace 2 to 3 of the port lights, windows, the opening kind. And then probably do some work here in the cockpit area. A lot of crazing or cracking of the gel coat, and I need to identify if there's any other areas. And I know I got some water intrusion somewhere in this area, and it's either the stanchions or the tow rail. I sure hope it's not the tow rail, because that's going to be one heck of a job to get that puppy out. But if it is, it is. I might end up maybe even cutting it midstream and just taking the section out that I know is bad. I don't know. It's not the best method of doing things, but considering time and budget, it might have to be. So we're happy with what we got done today, and now I can get back to the F-350.